Welcome, losers. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, I'd like to welcome you as well. Now, we usually talk about combat sports, mixed martial arts on this channel, but as of lately, we've been covering the political realm as well. I've started to find a lot of interest. I know a lot of you guys have also started to find interest, and if you've clicked on this video, you probably are interested. So this is going to be quite the video, okay? I've strung together 3 different videos that we're going to take data from and we're going to talk about. So it's going to be a long one. Strap your seatbelt in. It's going to be entertaining. I think you'll learn something new. So today we're going to be covering Mossab Yousef and his father, who was one of the co-founders of the terrorist organization Hamas. A lot of you guys might not know that his son has spoken out openly about some of the terrors of Hamas. A lot of you guys might not even know who some of the co-founders are. A lot of you might not even know what some of the beliefs of Hamas are. And together, we're going to uncover some of that. So without further ado, we are going to get into this first video and look at some of the beliefs of Hamas and the Islamic religion in its whole. Okay, so the guy that we're seeing in the middle right there in black, that is Mossab, and he's going to go over some of the beliefs that the Islamic religion has specifically towards the Jewish people. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
While it's in the Quran, it's in the Hadith, that it's an Islamic belief based on the Islamic most trusted sources, that the end times will not come and the Mahdi, that's the savior of the Muslims, will not return until the Muslims annihilate all the Jewish people, not only in Israel, but worldwide. This is not only human delusion. They have been acting on it. I
love his accent.
It's a legislation. Many out there believe that Allah gave them the authority to punish the Jewish people. First, Allah choose the Jewish people. It was his chosen ones. But for disobedience, Allah wanted to punish the Jewish people. And now the Muslims functioning as the sword of Allah on earth to punish the Jewish people and all the non-Muslims who don't submit to Islam. This is the Islamic law. And all those who try to sell the West a peaceful version of Islam, they are liars and they are lying.
All right, so let's talk about that together. So a lot of things to really unpack there. So one of the things that I heard Mossab say was that in order for the end times to come about in the Islamic religion, according to the Quran, is for the complete and total annihilation of all Jews, not just in Israel, but all Jews. Another thing that was said, that in the Quran, they believed that the Jewish people were the first chosen people of God, but because they were disobedient, that they must be punished. And the Islamic people act as the sword of Allah to punish the Israeli people. Wow. So I have another clip of pretty prominent media figures in these Islamic countries talking about Jewish people and their relationship with Jewish people to kind of add further evidence and context to what Mossab just stated. So we'll get into that right now. Now on this video, we're going to be pulling from a conference that this woman had. Her name is Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and the topic that she was speaking on was anti-Semitism and the way it's risen throughout the years. It's a pretty good video. If you want to go check it out, we'll drop the link for it. But let's see what some of these people in these Islamic states have to say about Israelis and Jews. You have to read the subtitles.
لأنهم هم سارقون هم معتدون والسارق والمعتدي الذي أخذ مالا بغير حق أو أرضا بغير حق يظل في اضطراب نفسي واضطراب في وجداني أنه أخذ شيئا واعتدى عليه. هم يريدوا أن يثبتوا للعالم، أن يثبتوا للواقع الدولي والإقليمي أنهم أصحاب حق. هم جرثومة غريبة، جرثومة وميكروب لا مثيل له في الوجود. والله مش أنا الذي أقول. القرآن الكريم وصفهم بأنهم لا يوجد لهم مثيل. لتجدن أشد الناس عداوة للذين آمنوا اليهود. يهلك هيك قرفة ناس لا عندهم لا دين ولا مبدأ ولا ضمير ولا. أنا أستنكر ممن يؤمن بالتطبيع معهم، ممن يؤمن بالجلوس معهم، ممن يؤمن أن هؤلاء بشر ليسوا بشر وليسوا أناس وليسوا لا بذوات دين ولا ضمير ولا أخلاق.
Okay, so you could hear in the tone of his voice that he's not playing around with people who even think to have relations with people of Israel, with the Jewish people. Said that they are a bacteria on this world and that they must be annihilated. Let's listen to what this guy has to say.
وإحنا كراهيتنا أو
It's based on
كرهنا
their faith.
لليهود من منطلق عقيدة. القرآن هو اللي بيدعونا إن
The
إحنا
Quran
نكرههم
tells us.
وما نحبهمش.
لو أن اليهود تركوا لنا فلسطين خلاص يبقوا حبايبنا؟ لا طبعا، عمرهم ما هيبقوا حبايبنا إطلاقا. عقيدتك في اليهود واحد أنهم كفار، اثنين أنهم أعداء، مش أعداء عشان يحتلوا فلسطين.
Oh, wow.
وإنما هم أعداء ولو لم يحتلوا.
Wow. He just said that the Jews are not enemies because they occupy Palestine. If they didn't occupy a single thing, they would still be considered enemies to the Islamic State.
نحن نعادي يهود حتى ولو أعادوا إلينا فلسطين لأنهم كفار.
هؤلاء هم اليهود باختصار. وإن لنا عندهم نحن المسلمين لثأرا لا والله لن ينقضي إلا باستئصالهم بإذن الله تعالى، لأنهم حاولوا ابتداء قتل نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم مرات.
أعداء المسلمين.
I mean, you know what? They killed our greatest prophet. They killed Jesus Christ himself. But in the Christian faith and religion, we're taught that the Jewish people are still God's chosen people, but that the covenant has been extended to all of us that believe in Christ and who are baptized in his name. That's just purely for people who believe in that. Okay, let's keep it going.
بعد إبليس هم اليهود. من الذي قال ذلك؟ الله.
How much of that did you catch? It's
Wow. Okay. So we're almost 8 minutes into this video. We haven't even listened to much of what the story is with Mossab and his father being the co-founder of Hamas, but I found it very, very important to kind of show you the context of what the Quran teaches and what these Islamic states feel about Israel. This is not Hamas, by the way. This is just like your run-of-the-mill media people out in these Islamic states. This is the temperature over there. So you can imagine that the temperature within the Hamas organization is turned up to the umpteenth degree. So without further ado, we're going to bring Mossab to the stage, and we're going to hear his early life story, and we're going to learn more about his dad and his relationship with the Jewish state as well as Hamas. And out of respect for our speaker, I'm going to put myself into this small circle so he can take the full stage. Let's go.
In an Islamic religious family, my father was a Muslim Brotherhood leader. Later, he became a Hamas leader. And the honest truth, he was very good dad. He loved me within the best of his ability. My parents told us that we were going to heaven. And the non-Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, the rest of the world, if they don't convert to Islam, they are doomed to hell.
So we're going to have to keep interrupting, unfortunately, just so we can fall into the Fair Use Act. But that's, again, adding confirmation to what Islamists believe about the Jewish people, right? Let's continue.
When I was a child, I witnessed lots of killing and violence. There was no government, lots of chaos and disorder. People were literally killing each other in the streets. I'm talking about internal Palestinian conflict, where a father would actually kill his daughter, or a brother would kill his sister. I was beaten up in the school. on the hands of the principal. I was beaten up in the street. I was beaten up on the hands of the imam at the mosque. It was not easy for a child. Wherever you go, you just have to survive. I was always running for my life.
Okay, so he's painting the full picture for how life was coming up in an Islamic state, coming up under his father in Hamas, coming up in Palestine, where, quite frankly, seems like they had a lot of their own internal issues and still do. Now, next, we're going to get into the relationship with Hamas, his involvement in Hamas, and his arrest by the Israeli state. And I think you're going to find this really interesting, guys. Let's continue here.
At the beginning of Hamas was a very secretive movement, so my father did not talk about that or his involvement with Hamas, even though he was one of the founders of Hamas. Hamas invested lots of work in indoctrination. When you recruit people by the name of the nation and by the name of God, you can grow like wildfire. I became involved because I was following the lead of my father. My father is a revolutionary leader, a religious leader, and I want to be that. I don't want to be the follower, I wanted to be the leader. We thought killing for the cause was totally justified. We were taught that there were no Israeli civilians at all, that everybody was a soldier. They could twist any scripture to serve their political agendas.
Wow. Okay. So now we're going to skip ahead to how he got caught up. So he's in Hamas now. He wants to be a leader. He's like very inspired by his father, as any son would be, especially if you're heavily indoctrinated. Let's skip ahead to what got him caught up by the Israeli state and kind of to what leads him to be on this couch talking about his father and exposing Hamas. Okay. So we're going to skip to 4:19 in the video.
Before I became 18, with actually intention to form a military cell, Israel was on our tail. The moment we got the guns, all of us were arrested in no time.
So they went to get guns and got locked up.
My arrest was not easy. Unfortunately, I got beaten up by the Israeli soldiers, which basically against the Israeli law. But in war, there are violations, and I was a victim of that situation. And Israel was so desperate to know the masterminds of suicide bombing attacks. They had to put physical pressure on Hamas military wing. One of the Israeli intelligence recruiters, he offered me that we work together to stop suicide bombing attacks for the sake of humanity. And I was thinking to myself, this is my opportunity. I will just say yes, and the moment they trust me, I'm going to destroy them.
And this is the way that these smaller terrorist organizations have to operate. They're not big enough. They're not strategic enough to take on a force like Israel one-on-one. They have to find ways to infiltrate, and they have to cause chaos within. And so far, Hamas has been able to do a really good job with that. A great example stems back to the start of this war. We all know what happened in October. So you might be wondering, okay, this guy keeps stopping the video. Like, how do we get from point A to point B? We're going to skip ahead to 7:35. We've got a few more segments on this video, then we'll wrap it up, talk about it. And I've got one more video. Let's listen to what happens after he was released from prison, because you just heard his plan and intention was to break down the Israeli state from the inside. As a matter of fact, he felt as if it was the perfect opportunity. So where do things change here? Let's listen to when he was released from prison.
When I was released from prison, I thought to myself, on one hand, I cannot work for Israel because there is nothing in common between me and them. And I cannot work for Hamas anymore. But I was surprised when Hamas security wing came knocking on my door to follow up on the case inside prison.
What happened while you was in jail?
There is no escape from these people. And I didn't know how to protect myself. The cause is the most important in that culture. Hamas choose their ideology over the well-being and the future of an entire generation. So my father is no different. And in fact, my father was the first to betray me. When he had to choose between the cause and his own flesh, his own son, he chose the cause.
So if you're anything like me, you're wondering, okay, like, is this guy paid off by the Israeli state? Like, what happened? Look, it's going to take a whole lot more than money, okay, to be able to change someone's mind from this Palestinian state who's under the Hamas regime that's been heavily indoctrinated since a child, whose father is the co-founder of said terrorist organization. These people live and die for the cause. But he said his father was the first one that betrayed him. Now, I'm going to back up the video just a little bit to a spot we haven't heard yet, to where he finally starts to piece together and realize that maybe Hamas aren't the freedom fighters and aren't quite the organization that he was raised to believe that they were.
I came to the realization the hard way that if Hamas succeeded in destroying Israel and building an Islamic state, their state, it would be an absolute waste of life for something that is going to be only ugly. They tortured people, they made people create stories that weren't true.
We've seen
Hence,
this.
many people were killed and they were innocent people. It made me ask big questions about Hamas, their true nature, and their possible future.
And that's one of the worst things that can happen to an organization is some of your younger recruits, especially your very important recruits like the son of generals, son of founders, begin to ask questions, or even the citizens begin to ask questions. See, for an organization like Hamas to really be able to succeed at its highest potential, everyone has to be bought in from the top to the bottom. So this guy's starting to ask questions here. His father has betrayed him, and he's about to pick a side, and that side is going to be anti-Hamas. Now, let's skip ahead to the last segment of this video where he jumps on a phone call with his father to tell him straight up, like, this is what it is. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going to do. And I wanted to be the one to tell you first before you see it all over the freaking news. And we're going to get to see his father's response.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking
I'm
about
never
it.
paying for
Meet
you
Base
too.
44.
And this is why we start writing the book. But I did not want my father to hear from the media or from the TV. So I called him. It was a short window while he was in Israeli prison. And I told him the truth. It was the hardest conversation I ever had, I have to say. So when I told him the story, he went silent. I broke the silence. I told him, listen, Dad, if you want to disown me, you can go ahead. I know this is very hard on you, and I know that you have to protect my brothers. Because in that culture, if I wasn't there and my father did not disown me, other tribes have the right to kill any of my siblings.
What kind of culture is this?
On my behalf. This is how brutal that culture. There is no mercy.
No mercy.
In this case. So he told me, this is not a choice. This is not an option. He said, you will always be my son and I will always love you. And this was his final words.
Okay.
2 days later, I heard from the media that he disowned me, and this was the last conversation I had with him.
Wow. That's heavy. So let's just kind of piece all that together, guys. So we've been going for 19 minutes, 19 and a half minutes. I hope you're following along. Like, this is gold. This is very interesting. Like, this is background noise. You know, these are the type of videos that I put on while I'm playing video games or cleaning the house or doing whatever. My God. So this kid, young man, whatever he was at the time he was caught by the Israeli state purchasing weapons and got arrested, went from going to trying to destroy the Israeli state from the inside, however way he could, right? And they were running a lot of suicide bombers at this time. So the Israeli state wanted to pair up with him to stop all these casualties. And from being exposed to another ideology, from being exposed to the other side and hearing out the other side, he started to piece together and start having some thoughts and some common sense regarding the nature of Hamas. But ultimately, still being a good son, he wanted to write a book, but before writing that book, he wanted to reach out to his father. And I found it very interesting that on the phone, the father said, you know, son, you'll always be my son. I'll always love you. But then to the public, to Hamas, he had to disown him. He had to do that so that Mossab, right? Yeah, Mossab Hassan's siblings would be safe, because he said in this culture, if one betrays the nation, betrays Hamas, other families have the right to go in and kill okay, you got one bad seed, let's take out the rest of them. An unbelievably evil culture, in my opinion. So what have we learned so far? We've learned exactly how Islamic states feel about Israel and feel about the Jewish people. We've learned exactly the nature of how it was in Palestine and how it is in Palestine. There's a lot of crap going on out there. Fathers killing girls in the streets, neighbors killing other sons and other daughters of different families if they betray the nation. Suicide bombers. Like, these people believe that if their children live and die for Allah, then they're going to paradise. But it's at the expense of other people dying. They believe that the Jewish nation, the Israeli nation, are a people that are so evil that they just cannot be redeemed. Again, we saw it earlier. It is a blood feud. So we're going to get into one more video. It's a beautiful debate with Mossab and another young man, and it just breaks down into even further detail. The reason I made this video so long and pieced together so many videos is because I had a lot of questions. One of my first questions when watching this video is this guy paid off by the Israeli state? Is he an Israeli propagandist? Is he their token Palestinian Hamas capturee, so to speak? And through listening to these multiple videos, I've been able to piece together the information to lead me to believe that, sure, he probably is on payroll, but I don't think we can discredit the facts. I believe that he lived this. Who are we to say that he's lying? Who are we to discredit these facts? So without further ado, let's kind of get into this last segment of the video together. So in this clip, Mossab argues that to be Palestinian, that's not even a true ethnicity. It was something that is rather newer, something that was made up. He argues that, I'll let him get into it, but he also talks about the propaganda that comes out of a Palestine, that comes from Hamas. Let's get into this.
Please notice, my ethnicity is not Palestinian. We are Arabs of Judea and Samaria. That's an ethnic group. This is ethnicity. But Yasser Arafat did not want us to go to school. This is why, when the first Palestinian Intifada started back in 1987, the masked men used to come to our school and ask us to leave, to go to the checkpoints and throw stones at the Israeli army. Because for Yasser Arafat, it was very clever to pay a handful of masked men, we didn't know who they were, to come to school and send children to the checkpoints to get shot, or at least to confront an Israeli tank with a rock. This image attracted the globe.
And we've seen this.
Attracted so many people to see the bravery of a child throwing a rock at a very advanced weapon.
Yeah, and we've seen this. So basically what he's saying is like this war propaganda goes back a very long time to these masked men being paid to go into these schools, take kids out of the school, say, come on, let's go to this checkpoint. I want you to throw rocks. We need to be able to capture this image of you being heroic, throwing rocks at these tanks, going across these lines, these enemy lines where we know that you will die. I hate that the IDF, I hate that the Israeli army would do that to children. I absolutely hate that. But just as much as I hate that, maybe if not a little more, I hate the fact that for propaganda, their own people would check them out of school where they're trying to learn to be the next generation of doctors, lawyers, whatever, businessmen, and take them to a spot where they know that they will ultimately die. And we talk about a genocide. And speaking of that, we're going to skip ahead in this video to about 18 minutes and 50 seconds where Mossab talks about his definition of a genocide. And after that, we're going to come to our final thoughts and we're going to wrap this video up.
They went into peaceful communities. They wiped out more than 20 peaceful communities based on their religion and based on their ethnicity, based on their race. And that's the very definition of a genocide. Genocide is not defined by head counts. To say, let's say, if we kill more than 5,000 people, this becomes a genocide. No, genocide is defined by why the people have been killed. And the only people who were killed based on their religion and ethnicity are the Jewish people on October 7th.
Wow.
The victims in Gaza, they are not being killed because of their religious or ethnic background. It's a collateral damage because of the lack of responsibility of their government. For all those who claim to say what's happening in Gaza is a genocide based on the head count, they are contradicting the dictionary.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So guys, that is all the media I wanted to share. Now let's kind of get into our final thoughts about this. And I kind of want to pick up where he left off talking about the definition of a genocide. You know, the left is absolutely going crazy, has been going crazy, saying the state of Israel has been committing a genocide. And I'll be the first to tell you, I hate that there are so many deaths. I hate that women and children have been affected by this war. I hate that for Palestine. I hate that for Ukraine. Like I vehemently dislike and hate war. But he made a good point. And what have we learned since the beginning of this video? We've learned kind of how the Islamic states operate, especially regarding how they feel towards their Israeli neighbors, right? They were God's chosen people, but they disobeyed God, and now the Islamic State is the sword that should wipe them all away. And we know that Hamas takes that to an even higher degree. And we know that this is not just about land. As a matter of fact, it's been stated that if they didn't occupy that land, it would still be beef. And it would still be the goal to totally annihilate Israel based upon race, based upon beliefs, based upon who they are, based upon the blood feud that the two have. It's very interesting. I want to give a big shout out to these 3 videos that I pulled this media from. I want to give a giant shout out to Mossab Yousef. I encourage you to go seek out for yourself and look up some of his content. I think he is one of the greatest attributes and people that have helped me further understand this dispute and further understand the exact nature of Hamas. And I'll end this by saying the people of Palestine deserve better leadership. And I don't think that that should be with Hamas. I think that the world would be a lot better off without these extremist Islamic terror organizations. Do with that piece of information what you will. But yeah, ultimately, Palestine deserves better. I'm very glad that Mossab was able to make it out. Can you imagine the heat that is on him. Can you imagine? I'm sure there's a bounty that's bigger than any number that you and I have in our bank accounts combined. And for him to go out and speak like this, being paid off doesn't equate to this. Like, this guy's actively putting himself in danger. He's actively beaten what he was radicalized to believe as a young person. And for that, I commend him. But guys, let me know what you thought about this one down in the comments. I'm curious to see what you've learned, if anything, down below. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. I hope to see you all very soon. Peace. Enjoy the rest of your week.